Alrighty, this is episode 6 of the podcast. Today's guest is my good man, my guy, Gemma Murphy. She's a good friend from back home. We were travelling Bali together not too long ago. If I am right, she is studying journalism at uni, does that as a job on the weekends, and she has various or a multitude of passions, of which one I know of, which I'm pretty sure is a bookstore slash flower shop slash coffee shop.
Yep, perfect.
I think I'm right there. That's my introduction to you, Gemma. Hello.
Hi, yeah, you got everything right. Hello.
How are we doing? We're on a bit of a time difference right now, so it's 7:30 a.m. for me right now, which is why I sound a wee bit husky.
Yeah, it's 8:30 for me, so I don't envy you at all. Wouldn't have been me getting up at 7 a.m.
We've got to do it for the pod, mate. We've got to do it for the pod. I'm going to try train your memory back to the start of today. Did you have a coffee when you woke up this morning? How do you start your day? What are you drinking first thing?
I'm a peppermint tea gal.
First,
always.
And the AM, like as soon as you wake up?
And the AM. Yep, and the AM, and then if I'm treating myself, like if my friends are getting a coffee, I'll get a wee, a wee matcha.
A wee matcha, right? What, take me through your morning at home.
It depends, I suppose, if I have uni or whatnot, but if not, I would wake up. Do you want to know what time and stuff I wake up?
Aye, go for it, fuck it.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, don't wake up before 9 a.m. I haven't seen that time in a while. Or I'll wake up at 8:30, but I won't leave my bed until 9. That's just not happening, not on. Life's too short to get up before 9 a.m. And then I always have water beside my bed, and I'll tan water because I'm a thirsty gal. And then I'll go downstairs, put my slippers on, actually, put my clog slippers on, and then I'll go downstairs and have a peppermint tea. And maybe a matcha as well, it depends how many drinks I want. I'm one of those people that likes to drink 4 drinks at the one time. And then I will come back up and shower and get ready, and then probably, as of my life right now, study, because that's all I do. I don't have any social life right now.
What, are we studying 7 days a week? That's it?
Well, studying basically Tuesday to Friday morning, and then I work Fridays and Saturdays. I go straight from uni to work on Fridays, and then I study on Sundays or try and chill on Sundays. But I always chill on a Monday.
Okay. Why is Monday chill day? Is it just your day? It's Gemma day?
I just think it's I feel like it's nicer when I've not had work the day before to chill, because I feel like you're still I don't know, because our paper comes out on the Sunday, I'm always I'm still reading the paper or whatever, I'm reading what I've written. And then Sunday I'll kind of plan my week because I've just finished work anyway, and then Monday I'll usually literally do nothing. I just think it's nicer.
I think that's such a good way of splitting up, because everyone fucking dreads a Monday. So to have a Monday just fucking dedicated to yourself and chilling is a really good idea. It's a different way of looking at the week.
Yeah, it's nicer. I feel like you said, everyone dreads it, and I suppose I'm going to work when I get a big girl job. I'm probably going to work every Monday and hate it, so I might as well take Mondays off while I can.
I like it. Maybe you'll be a pioneer in the way weeks work from now on, because I know some companies trial 3-day or 4-day work weeks, and then they have either a Friday off, but I think the Monday might be something I would look forward to more, where everyone's fucking trudging to work with a pure dour face. You're just chilling there, enjoying yourself.
And Mondays are good because whatever you do, whatever you go out to do, if you're going to do an activity or if you go out for food, they're always dead. Places are always dead. So you're going to get a seat wherever you go. You're going to get a ticket to wherever you want to go. It's just a good day because no one else is seizing the day, but I am seizing the day on a Monday.
Maybe we shouldn't have talked about this in the podcast. Maybe we've made this too much of a public thing now. I mean, for the 7 people that listen to this podcast, it's going to become too popular at this point. We're going to ruin Mondays.
Guys, no one else steal my day. Mondays is my thing. Fuck off. Everyone fuck off.
Oh, Lord. Right, I'm going to take it back to, you mentioned that you're studying from Tuesday to Friday there. Take me back to when you first started your course. What was your thought process behind starting the course that you're doing now? And what were you most excited about at that point?
Well, obviously, I initially studied a different course. I was doing English and Spanish, which was fun, but obviously my ultimate thought process was, why am I learning Spanish in a classroom when I can learn it in Spain? No hate to anyone who studies Spanish, and if you want to be an interpreter or a teacher, but that was never what I wanted to do, so I didn't see the point in studying a foreign language in English, in a place that obviously speaks English. But yeah, and then I switched to journalism totally off of a whim. I didn't really have any thoughts. Never had even thought about being a journalist, to be honest, at all. I'd always liked writing stories and stuff like that, creative stories. I think when you think about writing stories, you kind of forget you can write stories on the truth, on what's actually happening. So I feel like journalism is good for that. That I still get to be creative, but I don't have to be so creative in the sense that I need to make up a whole plot and everything like that. Everything's already there for me. It's just a matter of making it pretty on a piece of paper, which I think is quite nice. So yeah, initially didn't have any plans on being a journalist, and then ended up being, not in an arrogant way, but quite good at it, which is obviously nice when you're good at something. So sort of pursued it more. And it just sort of went from there.
Yeah, just touching on that, doing quite well on it. You won a few awards and were shortlisted for a few other awards in recent years as well, right? And that was from some of the more interesting pieces. So I want you to tell me about those kind of awards that you were enlisted for and what that experience was like. And I want to touch on the music journalism as well, because I think that's where you truly found your kind of groove. That's where I've seen you kind of happiest and most excited about it. So tell me about what that kind of awards process is like, and physically what it feels like to be in that room.
The first thing I ever won was sort of a mentorship with a really well established journalist who's absolutely lovely, and she's still my mentor. But that was just during COVID time, and I sort of got an email being oh, you've achieved this. So it wasn't really, I don't know, I didn't really feel I guess it wasn't really an award in a sense, but it was still a really big achievement for only being, I think I was 19 at the time or something that. Was in second year at uni. So that was really exciting. And then the other one that I got was best newcomer at the Student Publication Awards, which was that one was really exciting because that's obviously UK wide, and there's hardly any Scottish unis there, so that actually felt really good to sort of win it on behalf of a Scottish uni. The actual being there itself, I don't know why, but obviously journalism is so, what I know why, that's not what I don't know why about, but journalism is very upper class. So there's something about going into a room full of people that are generally pretty posh and pretty well spoken, and you have this really rough Scottish accent. It's or when you're talking at light speed and someone else is telling you about how their mum and dad live in Oxford, and you're just all right, okay, cool. So it feels a wee bit funny. It doesn't always feel like you fit in, to be honest. It's a very upper class sort of nepotism based industry, unfortunately. It's changing slightly, but obviously that's quite rooted in it, so it's quite hard to change. But it is still exciting to be there, and it's mad because the journalism, there's so many journalists, but you are still quite tight knit, and it's weird it's weird to think that you're in a room with that many people, and it's most likely you probably will work with some of them at some point, or one of them could end up being your boss. So I don't know, I feel when you're a journalism student, you're just programmed to see everything, every event that you go to is a chance to network. I'm literally so scared out of hearing that word network, but yeah, you really just don't know who you're going to end up working with and whatnot. And then the other one was what was the other one? Scottish Press Awards. I got shortlisted for that one, but I never won it. But that was still a really big deal to get shortlisted for. So that was for Student of the Year, which was just absolutely mental. But it's my friend Daniela that won it. She's an amazing journalist. She's won it 2 years in a row. So I was really chuffed for her. Shout out Daniela, you're a boss. She totally deserved it. She's fucking amazing at writing. So yeah, I didn't get to go to that award actually because I was just back from Bali and I was so skint, and the tickets were that's again upper class. The tickets were quite expensive, so I couldn't even go. But yeah,
Is it quite hard, like just based on what you described as it being pretty upper class? Is it quite gatekeepy? Like, is it hard to break through into that industry? Or are they welcoming? You said you've got a mentor, so what's the actual process? Do they wait until you've produced a good piece of work and then they're like, oh, well, maybe we'll invite her now? Or is it something where you speak to your uni and stuff and then they put you in touch with mentors and then it's an easier route to actually get into the industry?
It's really hard to get a foot in the door. That is like 100% the hardest part. That's why when I got a mentor, I was so chuffed. I got that through the uni had advertised it. So basically, my mentor is Strathclyde alumni. So I think obviously she was wanting to like sort of give back to the uni that had gave her degree. My mentor is Gabriella Bennett, by the way. She's the nicest person in the world. Yeah, so she'd wanted to like sort of give back to her like uni in a sense, and then I just applied for it, so not really thinking much of it, and it was a couple of months later that I heard that I'd got it, and that was like such a sigh of relief because it is so hard to get into journalism, just like a lot of like unpaid work, and obviously not everyone's in a position to be able to do that, and it's overwhelming. Like you don't really like obviously everyone has imposter syndrome, so having to submit work to an actual paper when you're like second year uni, or you just presume you're like they're obviously not going to take it, but sometimes they will, which is class. But yeah, it is, I wouldn't have even got my job in journalism had it not been for getting Gabriella, because Gabriella like got me invited to like a mentoring event where I met someone else that works for the Mail on Sunday, and then she gave me work experience, and then that work experience, once I got nominated for awards, then turned into actual work. But so yeah, once you get like that initial person, the ball really does get rolling. And it's not super hard once you're in it to sort of move around, and you because you go to events and when you're reporting on news, there's always people from other like obviously newspapers and stuff, so you get chatting to like a lot of different people, and you always know someone somewhere at a different outlet or whatever. So it's not super hard once you're in it to sort of move about, but it's just initially getting into it. Yeah, it can be quite hard.
Okay. And now that you're into it and you got a mentor, where did you find your groove the most, where you thought, okay, I'm really good at this, like I've actually got talent for this? Because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, where I seen you happiest and most excited in our conversations is when you'd done who was that musician that was playing in Glasgow's East End that you covered?
I've done, was it Joy Crooks was the one that was Crooks. In the St. Luke's? Yeah, that was amazing. Sorry, yeah, I totally went on a tangent and forgot you'd asked me about the music side of it, sorry.
No, it's all good.
Whoopsies. Yeah, music journalism is so class. Like that's essentially was like my first, not paid work, because you don't get paid, but you get paid. Like it's fucking cool going to a gig, like you're walking up to the Badlands and being like, yeah, I'm here for press. Like even if it's just the strat, like your uni paper, you still feel like a fucking like bad bitch. I was like, yeah, I'm here for press. I'm here for free. And it's so fun. Like you literally get paid basically and essentially free gig tickets. And obviously if you love music, that's like an absolute dream. And writing about music was like a fun challenge for me because I'm not super musically inclined. I don't play an instrument, but I just love it. But obviously vocabulary wise, I was like slightly limited in terms of describing sounds and notes or whatever, or sort of like feels for music. I didn't really know that much, so that was like I had to sort of learn how to do that and read other examples to be good at that. But yeah, it was something that I really liked, and it made me like more in tune to music, I feel like. And I definitely listen to like lyrics a lot more, or I'm like more aware of like stage presence and stuff like that. So yeah, that's gig writing, like music reviews and stuff is so fun, or even just like album reviews is really good because it's like essentially someone wants to hear about your opinion as well, which is like pretty fun. I mean, I'm totally underqualified to comment on anyone's music, but I did, and it was quite fun.
I mean, it sounds class. Did you rock up with like a little notepad, some glasses on as well? You got like the full reporter outlook, like some sort of trench coat as well, and then you're just like standing in the corner?
Yeah, you wear your wee lanyard and all that with your like press pass and all that.
I like what you said about like have you noticed more about like lyrics and stage presence? Because any live show that I've ever been to, I just kind of go there and I'm immersed in the moment. I don't really think about all that goes into making that such an experience. Apart from the singer themselves or the musician themselves and the actual music, what would you say is the second most important thing about live music to make an incredible experience?
I think something that's maybe like overlooked is probably like the order of the songs, because they're trying to do it in a sense of like they're orchestrating the audience with the highs and lows of like, say, ballads, and then say upbeat songs, and then say fuck knows they go on to like one of maybe a heavier song. Like they've done that on purpose, and I find that really interesting that they've chose to do it in that order. And it is like the audience like essentially does become like putty in their hand, and I think that's really like interesting to watch. And I think that's when you know you've got a good gig or like a good band, when they like do have that sort of control over the audience. I think that's really interesting. It's really good to watch like a front person that has that sort of ability. And I also think something that I always look at now is the lighting that goes along with like every song, because that's also done very much on purpose, and that like usually resonate like the lyrics or the feel of the song very intentionally. And I feel like that's always really good when I'm sort of like writing wise for like describing an image. I feel like the lighting is always really like good to mention. But yeah, I would say definitely the person's like ability to control the audience is like essential to a good gig, and not control as in like everyone's just like zombies in the audience, but I just mean like we've all been to a gig where people are talking when the person's singing, and that's just not what you want, or the audience is just fucking dead during a song where everyone should be jumping. So yeah,
I think Glasgow's probably one of the best places to go and do a gig, because most audiences in Glasgow are going to give you a pretty good reaction.
Yeah, 100%.
One that I've still got in my mind is the Arctic Monkeys gig at Transmit. I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago now. And it's still on YouTube. If you look up like greatest live performances of all time, it's just like Alex Turner and then all of Glasgow singing his lyrics back to him. Do you think that reporters and musicians have a symbiotic relationship, and that one helps the other? You get to go see live music, you get to listen to them, and then you ultimately increase the press of them. Or is it something that's a weird line to toe? Because obviously you can give a bad review of music as well. So is there any personal relationship between the two? Or is that something that's maybe established as you become more of like a full-time music journalist?
I feel like what you said about the fact that you give them press, but you can't if you give them a bad review, obviously, is incredibly awkward. So yeah, I feel like that's definitely something that like makes it maybe not a symbiotic relationship. But yeah, in terms of me going to a gig, obviously you want to be as fair as possible, but you have essentially been invited to go there for free, and I'm obviously not an established name when it comes to music journalism, so I don't really want to go there and like fucking slate them. So I'm not going to do it. Like unfortunately, like I've never had a gig that's been bad, but you kind of like go already trying to be quite optimistic, because essentially as a student journalist, they are really helping your career, like by making space for you to go. Because obviously it would be so easy for like gigs and press and stuff like that to just be like, nah, big names only, like we're not letting any small papers in. But they let like student papers in, which I think is like very nice of them. But that's me getting into kind of the politics of like papers a bit more. But yeah, I think if you have an established name in music journalism, which is hard, it's very niche, I think people would probably maybe shit themselves if you were coming to a gig, like, or if you're like known for being like a harsh reviewer or whatever, then yeah, I feel like maybe they'd be harsh. I've always had such a good experience, I think, because I reviewed like mostly sort of like smaller up and coming like Glasgow bands. They just totally appreciate the fact that you've like took the time out to promote their music and like talk about, just sort of like get their name out there. So I've never like fortunately had a bad experience. But yeah, I think if you're established, people could be like shitting themselves, or they could maybe be, I don't know, I think that's the thing as well. If you've like given someone a bad review, and obviously bands might know each other, then they might be like, oh fuck them, like I don't want them coming, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know, I think there's definitely other relationships that are like less symbiotic. Like it's, some people just don't want to talk to the like media at all, like the police don't really want to talk to us at all, which is fair enough. But yeah, I feel like musicians are generally okay.
Do you have people that do music journalism full time? Do you have like big names that you're aware of?
Nah, because unfortunately it's kind of dying. Like I'm pretty sure the Herald has just lost like a lot of its arts editors, and I don't even know if they have, like, not arts, like I think they've just lost its art section potentially, so I don't actually know if they even do music anymore. The only people I can, like, papers I can think of that have like a music section are like ones that are dedicated to it, like Rolling Stones or The Guardian do music reviews and stuff like that, but it's just like, nah, it's definitely dying, which is like really sad, which kind of sucks. Just because of things like TikTok and stuff like that and social media, it's so easy for someone to just like take a recording and like post it. You're not really just relying on someone's opinion now to hear what the gig was like, because you can just go and watch it yourself. Like, why? It's hard to get someone to choose to read words than watch a video.
100%. And just like the ease of access of Spotify and stuff, although it's not
Yeah.
the live music itself, they can listen to that song and be like, okay, that's from you, for not for me. And music's a super like subjective experience, so reading someone's opinion of it when you can go in 3 seconds and look it up on Spotify, it's a bit harder. I think there's maybe a place for it in terms of, because you're actually there and you're actually describing the set design and the flow of the songs and so on and so on and so on, and whether someone who is really good on Spotify or really good on social media actually translates into real life, there might actually be space for that in terms of like music enthusiasts that love going to see live music, because there's quite a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more of a niche industry than what it used to be, when you wouldn't be able to hear them until they came on the radio at some point, or you had to buy their CD. So it is definitely more of a niche industry than it used to be. But I think there's probably a space for it somewhere. It just needs to be reframed in a manner that helps people, I guess. Like, you can look up, for example, Kendrick Lamar, what's his live shows like, and then it would have descriptions from journalists or something. I'm not really too sure. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but there's probably some.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that's the thing, is like you have to, like you said, like it has to be sort of like a music enthusiast that's going to go looking for it. That's why I think it seems to be less like just part of a general paper and more whole magazines dedicated to just music, because people are like, if they're into music, they're really into music, rather than just sort of having it in amongst everything else. Because I feel like people would probably just skim over that, whereas it's better to have it in a place where people are going to go looking for it. Like, I would read a music review, but that's because I like reading and I like music. But there's probably a lot of people that are like that. So yeah, there's definitely a space for it. It's just unfortunately a bit smaller.
Do you think it's a positive or a negative that social media is growing and becoming bigger and people are favouring short form content? Or do you reckon it's just one of those things that it is what it is?
No, I'm going to say most questions that involve social media, I'm probably always going to say it's a negative thing. I think, no, it's made like art, like it makes it really hard to keep a reader's attention, because everyone's like now like in tune to like having a documentary's worth of information in 3 minutes, like abbreviated down to 3 minutes. I feel like it's so hard to get people to continue like to keep reading. Like, everyone's attention spans are like actually fucked. I think it's obviously great that it's easier access to seeing fun things and sharing like food places and gigs and stuff like that, but I also think it obviously sort of like ruins the magic of them as well. Do you know what I mean? Because if it's that, like, if all you need to do is like go on and watch a video, you're not going to be as excited. Like, I've seen countless videos of, I don't know, it depends how your mind goes, but I've seen countless videos of Paramore performing live, and I'm like, some people that might be like get them really excited, like, fuck, like, she looks class, that's amazing, like it's going to be so fun to go and see her. And obviously same with Harry Styles, there's countless videos of him going around singing live. But for me, I'm like, I would rather not know what to anticipate, because like the excitement is like sort of not knowing. And the same sense of like, if you watched a video and they didn't seem that good and you're like, I have tickets, you're like, nah, I'm not really excited anymore. I think it's always like, I don't know, there's just more excitement with stuff that's unknown. So I feel like having like this unlimited access to like any question that you ever have just means that ruins our sort of ability to get excited about things.
Yeah, I've never really thought about that, because I mean, me personally, I kind of stay off social media, don't have Instagram, don't have TikTok, kind of favour long form content, but I never really considered that all of these things will kind of set your expectations for something, and it ruins that air of mystery. And it's not even just music, like food places and stuff as well. That seems to be a massive thing, that people post food places on TikTok, and then they'll just blow up from there, which I guess is good for their business and stuff. but it ruins, like, what I love is when someone, what I love most actually from any kind of marketing perspective is word of mouth. I love hearing from one of my good friends and they're like, oh, this app's amazing, or this band's amazing, this food place is amazing, you need to go to this country. And that's what I rely on most. I rely on like individual recommendations from good friends, less so on things like social media. Like if I seen a good place on Twitter or something, because it's one of the only social medias I use, I'd be less likely to trust it. I love that personal reference as well, because people know what you like as well. Your close friends know a bit about your personality, your likes and your dislikes. So I think that's the greatest way to kind of organically grow something is through recommendations. And I'm pretty sure I was reading, actually when we were in Bali, I was reading a book on Elon Musk, and it was saying about Tesla and the way that they grew within the first 10 years was just through like word of mouth. They didn't spend any money on traditional advertising. It was just through people hearing how good the cars were and how much of like a fanatic the CEO was. And I think I love that brands can actually still grow organically without employing everything into social media, because I think it does feed into that machine. Like TikTok and stuff is a 6-second content attention span, and eventually we're going to get to the stage where we can't do anything that requires kind of deep focus and attention. That's really dangerous, which is why I've only done 6 episodes, or we're doing episode 6, but podcasting is it actually requires you to sit and think and listen and have a conversation. And that's even a skill in and of itself. Like the first few episodes, I found myself kind of maybe blanking out at times, like my attention wavering. And this podcast, I've really made like a concerted effort to like really engage in a conversation and listen to everything that you're saying. And that's probably a product of having that short attention span through things like YouTube Shorts and stuff. So it's definitely a waning skill, being able to like retain attention or focus for a longer time. But that's me went on a mad tangent about social media. I hope you enjoyed that.
No, but I think you're so right. Thanks, Bessie, for listening to everything that I'm saying as well. Appreciate that. But no, you're so right. Yeah, everyone's attention span is just absolutely gubbed, and that is genuinely like concerning. And I've even like, I feel like people will notice it at uni and stuff like that. Like lecturers maybe possibly will notice people's attention spans gradually just getting worse over the years as more and more short content becomes a thing. And obviously, like you were saying as well, like it's obviously great that food places go on TikTok and they blow up because it's it looks really class. The video someone's made has edited the food and it looks fucking scrumptious. But at the end of the day, someone's going to post a video 2 weeks later. It's going to do the exact same thing, and then that's going to blow up. Like I feel like people like lose commitment now, or like I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like people wouldn't maybe keep going back to something, or because they're just always trying to chase something new, because we're now so aware of the absolute vast amounts of unlimited options that we have. But people are like, oh, why would I eat in the same place twice if there's that many places to eat? Why would I go to maybe a gig twice if I've recorded everything and have it saved? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the novelty of anything has been reduced or kind of increased massively. Like the novelty of everything, you can see and experience so many different things through your phone now, that we're just kind of dulled in our sensitivity to the novelty of new situations. Do you think, just leading this back onto the journalism front, is there being any efforts to convert journalism to kind of parry to that short form content? Like, do the main kind of journalism programs have like TikTok accounts and stuff? Is that something they use or do?
Yeah, that's massive. So social media is such a massive thing to journalism. If you're an online journalist, SEOs, which is like your search engine stuff malarkey, is like a massive part of your job. Like you'll get sort of, I'm pretty sure, reviewed on that. Like how many clicks your articles are getting is so important, which I think is like quite sad, and which obviously is like what happens then is then you get like clickbait and headings that aren't, not that they're not right, but they're maybe more dramatic or something per se. But yeah, even like the Daily Mail has a TikTok account where it sort of abbreviates news stories that you could go on and like read to say they're maybe like 500 word news stories. I don't even think they'd be that long. they're just shortened into like 30 or maybe even 10-second videos. The Guardian has that as well. Sky News, yeah, pretty much every media outlet has all forms of social media platforms, including TikTok. And there's been like a big shift over, like a lot of journalists now. There's sort of a discussion of journalist slash influencer, like the sort of having to have like an online presence being a journalist, because obviously the best way to get people to read your stuff is by sharing it online. Like, and then if you have a social media presence, like a lot of journalists that have a big social media presence will then go on to release a book that they wouldn't get to release if they didn't have an audience, because even publishers now like want to be able to see like, okay, well, how many people are going to read this? Like, how many followers do you have? It's the same with musicians. Like, now it helps if they have a TikTok, like a TikTok following, because they see that as, okay, well, that many people are going to listen to your music. Which I think's like quite sad, because there's probably some people out there that are saying very interesting things, but people won't read them because they're not on social media.
Do you reckon it'll ever reach an equilibrium where right now it's swinging one way and another, and in the past it was just written content, and now they're encouraging everyone to use TikTok and social media? Do you reckon we'll ever get to a point where there's like a happy, objective middle somewhere between them?
No, I don't think so. I think it will just continue to swing the other way. And I think obviously the minute I tell people journalism, people are like, oh, dying industry. No one reads journals, no one reads newspapers anymore. And I'm like, well, they still consume news, it's just in a different way. But yeah, I think like it's quite sad, but I wouldn't be surprised if in 30 years' time there was no physical, tangible newspapers. It was all online.
Which is a damn shame, because I mean, I don't read the newspaper, but I see this with like books and stuff as well. I much prefer having a physical copy there. I think there's just something so inherently human about having that there compared to like a Kindle. And one thing that actually really pisses me off about Melbourne is that so many fucking places give you a QR code for a menu, and I'm like, fucking just give me an actual physical menu, let me read things off it. And instead you're having to, like, the fact that they're even marginalising people that maybe you go out without a phone and you can't fucking look at. I mean, you need to ask for a menu specifically, and it takes a few minutes to bring over to you. It's a little bit of a pain in the arse, not that bad. But the fact that they're even putting that like that kind of gap on it, like you need to have a mobile phone, you need to scan this to be able to even look at the menu. I just find it annoying. I'd much rather have a physical thing in front of me. I think we're just going too far in that direction. But my theory is like, as that gets worse and worse, like TikTok and more people involved in this, I think you'll start to see like this subset of the population, like yourself and like myself, that start to really value like written content, podcasting, longer YouTube videos, like engaging discussions, because they realize how negative the effects of like TikTok and Instagram are for them. So I think you'll start to see, as it swings more in that direction for the mass, you'll see this kind of like niche subset of the population jumping over and being like, oh, I'm actually happier as a person when I read all these books and I read the newspaper and I engage in more discussions rather than just watching 6-second videos. Because I think the thing about 6-second videos and TikTok and Instagram stuff is that you don't actually really learn. I mean, you can learn some things, but you don't really get much of an education, or you don't really get much of value out of them. It is primarily like fun and entertainment is what it is. And it's really good for that, because like mates have showed me TikToks before and I've went through and I'm like, that's actually really fucking funny. It's good for that. But I don't know, for me, I'd rather watch something that's like 40 minutes on YouTube that I really enjoy, and get some value out and maybe learn something from. So that's my prediction in the future, is I think it'll swing both ways. Going back to journalism again, I want to find out, what is like the most kind of coveted position within a newspaper? Is there people that are kind of like recognised around Britain, for example, for the work that they do? And what kind of stuff do they cover? Is it maybe like war journalists, or people that report on really like, I guess, dangerous things where they put themselves on the line? What's like the most respected kind of position within a journalism industry?
I think that's a really good question. I think there's obviously a lot of more casual journalism now, like lifestyle articles and say I'm trying to think like trend writers and stuff like that, which I think is great, and it's really interesting. And even people that write about like sex, I think it's great to be having like conversations about that. But obviously, there's certain fields of it that are more respected in the sense of because the information is so vital. So I think it's if what you're telling someone is really important and everyone should know it, then that's respected. So yeah, like war journalists are super respected because not only do they put themselves in dangerous situations, but they do it because that information has to be shared. Like it's vital. So yeah, that's like definitely a position that's totally valued, and especially I would say documentary makers are obviously like, because a lot of the time they can be sort of exposing truths or like harsh realities, or maybe I think it's easier to give a voice to someone that needs to be heard via documentary because it puts a face to it as well, so people are just emotionally more engaged. Obviously people write about topics that give people voices, which I think is obviously amazing as well. That's what I aim to do with some of my writing, but there's just that element of more of a connection when you can put a face to a voice. So yeah, a lot of people that do documentaries are like very well respected. Obviously there's like Stacey Dooley, people love her, she's a journalist. Dolly Alderton, she's a really famous columnist for the Times. She's now got 2 books out, people love her. I'm trying to think who else. There's a really, really famous war journalist who I should know his name, and the fact that I don't is really bad. But he went to Ukraine. I think, is he with BBC? I want to say he's with BBC, but yeah, he's super well respected. It depends like how sort of in the field you are, but yeah, you just become more aware of names, because when I'm sat in my office, sometimes they'll mention someone and they're like, oh yeah, she wrote that piece on, I don't know, the Queen. It was really good. I don't know. And they all sort of like, there is like very much like a shared respect amongst journalists, and you've got that sense of when someone writes a story, you're like, fuck, that's such a good story, I wish I'd written that. And then you always like probably will remember their name. So yeah, different people obviously. Sometimes the stuff that's most respected by like other journalists or people isn't the stuff people find the most interesting, because it's probably usually quite sad, or because it is so important it can be difficult to digest. That's why sometimes the journalists people love most are ones that do write about relationships and sex and lesbianism.
Lesbianism. You said somewhere within that you like writing to give people voices that maybe don't have voices. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think if you've got the chance to write something that has the potential to be read by loads of people, then you have sort of like a moral duty to write things that you think are important and give people who maybe are trying to make a point. Like say you see somebody posting about a fundraiser they're doing that can be as little as that, and you just write a short story about the fundraiser that's coming up. Or maybe if you have someone, say there's a girl in my work, and a lot of students at her university, including herself, had experienced some anti-Semitic behaviour, and she wrote a piece. Her name's Sabrina Miller. She's a really good journalist. She wrote a piece about this and basically expressed how all these students were feeling, and it ended up resulting in the guy lost his job, and because he was saying very mean inappropriate things. So yeah, like she's done that. Like that's like a perfect example of that. Or when I wrote like a piece about a lesbian author, and she's from like Fife area, but she lives in Glasgow, about her book that was like up and coming. Like she's like a relatively new author, and as a lesbian, obviously I wanted to promote that because it's a book. It's called This Is How We Love. I think that sounds, yeah, I think that is. It's by a girl called Aisha Doherty, and yeah, it's a really positive book about just lesbian relationships and sort of just inner workings of lesbian relationships and little really sweet moments and anecdotes between lesbian couples. So obviously, or like women loving women, or just queer couples. Sorry. So yeah, I obviously wanted to write a piece on that so people would read it and people would like be more aware of how wholesome and nice lesbian relationships are. Just wee things like that, or yeah, I'd love to do like a lot more like groundbreaking, really interesting journalism as well. But it's hard if you're not like a super confident writer. You want to do it well as well, and you owe it to people to do it well. So yeah, like for my dissertation, I want to speak to journalists in the industry that are living with disabilities and how accessible the journalism industry is for people with disabilities and stuff like that. So yeah, I think if you have the opportunity to give sort of like marginalised people voices, then you should, and you kind of owe it to them, especially if you're from a marginalised group as well. Then yeah, you kind of feel like a moral obligate. What's the word?
Obligation.
You feel obliged. Yeah, obligation. I was like obligaty. I was like, that is not a word.
So you said you were talking about the lesbian author from Fife that lives in Glasgow and stuff, and you can talk about it if you want on the pod as well, but that's somewhat relating to yourself. Do you find it's easier to talk about that having gone through the experience yourself? Is there any coverage that's done on groups or marginalised groups like that that's done by an author that doesn't have that personal experience? What would you say the difference is? Can you see it as like tangible when someone outside of that group tries to represent them?
It depends what they're trying to do. If they're obviously trying to write a positive piece, then I would never, like if someone wrote an article about lesbians and wasn't a lesbian and it was a nice enough piece, then like, and it was totally well written, there was no harmful words or anything like that, then yeah, that wouldn't bother me, as long as she's not saying like making statements that she doesn't know are true, like saying like, oh, lesbians experience this, because in my head I'd be like, well, how do you know that? That sort of thing. I think it is. I don't think it should be, I don't want to say it's only for like lesbians to write stories about lesbian pieces. I don't think that's fair. But I think there's obviously just like an element of, you have to be careful. It's the same if I was to write a piece about like that, like anti-Semitic behaviour. I don't know. I'm never going to experience that. I'm not Jewish. I'll never know what it feels like to be discriminated against for being Jewish or any religion. So I won't really know. It depends how you're writing it as well. Like if it's a news piece, you obviously don't put yourself into that. So you just write the facts, basically what they are. You don't really need to have that sort of personal experience. But if you're going to attempt to write a feature, then I think you might struggle, just because you won't fully understand what you're writing about. Or it's harder. It's not that you maybe you won't struggle, but it will just be hard. It will be harder for you.
Yeah, I can imagine without having that personal experience, you can't fully understand the range of emotions that are to be represented. But like what you said, that anyone can do it as long as they're coming from a good place, I guess, even if they don't fully understand the situation.
Yeah, because there's even examples of like, I've seen like articles that are just shit, and then they have been written by a lesbian. I'm like, why as a lesbian have you wrote that? Or like, obviously you see like fucking people speak out against her, like Caitlyn Jenner, not to like get onto it, but she's obviously like writing pieces for papers and stuff about like, or like political pieces about trans health issues, and she's writing them against trans people, and you're like, bruh, you're trans. Like, it makes no sense. So yeah, that was a bit of a tangent, but or maybe slightly like off topic. But yeah, so just because you are part of that group doesn't mean that you'll always write it well. Like, I could write a piece about like how I feel as a lesbian, and someone could be like, I've never felt like that, or you've totally not mentioned how it feels to be like a lesbian. As like, I could write a piece that'd be like, oh, being a lesbian like isn't hard anymore. It's actually really easy. Like, everyone's really accepting. But then someone would, like, people obviously, I'm like a white lesbian as well, like, and cisgender. It's just like, the only thing I have is like, that's say difficult or whatever is, or possible for someone to sort of comment on with me as my sexuality. Like, I don't have all the experiences to make such a statement. I was like, yeah, being a lesbian is easy now, because it's not. It's easier for me because of the other things that I think, the other privileges that I have.
And with this, obviously, is something that you're passionate about, and so is the music as well. Are either of these things, or both of these things, something that you can see yourself doing more full time as a career in the future, or do you intend or think that you'll pivot maybe out of journalism into something else? I
think I'll pivot, just because it freaks me out to think that I'll do the same job until until I die. No. So I'd like to pivot. Have you ever seen that tweet? And it's like, but part of me wants to be a doctor and part of me wants to be like a historian and part of me wants to be an artist, and I only have one life, and it's like so stressful. I kind of feel like that sometimes. I'm like, fuck. Like, I want to be so many things. Like, I'd love to work in film for a while. I'd love to, like you said, like fucking love to have my own bookshop, cafe, florist. That will happen.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you the name because
tell us more about that. Don't tell us the name, but like, paint us a picture.
So, right, it's a lovely, what we call a rainy day. It's a lovely rainy day. You feel like just picking up a book, but you also want a coffee, right? But I don't know, sometimes I feel bad for sitting with a book in my coffee shop for too long because they're fucking busy. Coffee shops are actually jumping, and people, maybe if it gets food, you don't want to just sit with a coffee, and you feel bad. So what's the best place? A place that is a bookshop and a cafe. Like Waterstones is so good, but obviously support small businesses. It's good to have smaller versions, and I just think it would be such like a nice thing. There's one in Stirling called the Book Nook. It's actually like fucking heaven. It's the nicest place ever, and they just sell like bagels, and there's just books everywhere. And I love the fact that you're like in amongst the books. I feel like Waterstones, I don't know why they do that. They always separate their cafes so much from their books, whereas like the Book Nook has like, you're like sat beside the books, like, and the books like divide the tables. I think that's so nice because I don't know, like, it's a sense of privacy, but it's also like makes you feel as if you're in like some really nice like library or something. I don't know why Waterstones makes it seem as if like you're in this really nice bookshop and then you're in a completely separate like restaurant sort of cafe thing. I don't know why they do that. So yeah, I would love to have like my own place and then have like it like a little corner of it that sort of like changes monthly. I'm not going to give too much details because I am convinced, and I have told you about this before, that it is a good plan.
I think it's an excellent plan, and if you don't want to reveal your business plans on the podcast, I completely understand.
Watch me never ever have this business, but I will die with my ideas because I refuse to let no one else, as if anyone else is going to be like, yeah, I really want a big gay bookshop cafe, but in my head I'm like, no, everyone wants that.
I don't think anyone's gonna listen to this podcast, hear this idea and be like, do you know what, I'm gonna take $100,000 and go and start that right now just to spite Gemma Murphy. I don't think it's gonna happen, but you keep your secrets, Fit. You keep your secrets.
No, I've already planned everything. My mum's going to work in the cafe. She'll make the paninis because she'll be like old at that point. Obviously, everyone will tip better if it's a wee old cute old woman in the cafe in the restaurant.
Your mum's a pretty cute woman at the moment, so she'll just add the age on to her, and then she'll be right. She'll love a chat as well. Your mum will love a.
Oh, she'll love a chat. You won't be able to get her shut up.
Unreal. So that's the ultimate goal. Is there any other industries? So you said there, you saw the tweet and it was talking about how you want to work in different industries within the same life. And I had this exact conversation the other day with a friend of mine that there's so many different things I would love to do, and she said exactly the same. And I think for me, like, I do want to do all these things, and I think first and foremost, to do most things, to work in most things or explore most hobbies, you need money. So that is my ultimate goal in the short term, and in the longer term, I'll be using that to go into different industries and try different things. Like, one thing I'd love to do is I'd love to own a hot sauce brand. Like, I'd love to own like a limey hot sauce, because I don't like, that's not really done right now. Most hot sauce are just like red or buffalo or something like that. But I think
true.
A zesty limey hot sauce, I don't know why it's not been
lime
done.
And coriander, like salsa, delicious.
Like a wee salsa verde with a bit of kick to it.
Yes.
Like, yes. See?
That on fish tacos.
Oh, baby. So, shit like that, I'd love to do that. I would love to spend 6 months in Japan learning Japanese, learning how to snowboard. I'd love to spend maybe a year in Spain, learn how to speak Spanish and fucking learn how to cook, go down to Italy and learn how to make pasta and pizza. Like, there's many different archetypes that I would like to belong to. What are three, outside of journalism and outside this bookshop, that you could picture yourself doing? Say, for example, you were given unlimited time.
Fire service. I would love to be in the fire service. That's like a dream that I think I don't know, it's one of those things I would like actually love to do it, but I never know if I will. But I just think I've always had this like thing of wanting to do it. It's always been like in the back of my head, but I think I've always thought I couldn't do it. So then part of me wants to do it to prove that I can. Obviously I need to get fit as fuck, which is not happening right now because all I'm doing is stress eating because of uni. So give me a couple of years, you know. But yeah, I would love to do that. What else would I love to do? I wanted to be an air hostess for a while just because of the freeness that you can sort of travel with it. But I think maybe if I was wanting to travel with a job, I would just maybe do like teaching English as a foreign language or something like that. But yeah, maybe that wasn't like a very good answer, but something that basically my second one would be like something that I could travel with alongside that. And then what would my third one be?
Just on that second one, I can't imagine you as an air hostess because I know you as a person and you don't take shite from anyone. So
I know I'm a cow.
As an air hostess, I think you'd be a terrible air hostess because you tell cunts to shut the fuck up. You'd be awful at it, mate.
I'd actually fling people out the emergency exit.
You'd be fired within about 2 weeks for fucking punching people, mate, honestly.
Can you imagine like me on a flight and it's a lad's holiday to MAGA? I would actually kill people. I would be on death row. I'm sorry, mate, you've not got the personality to be an air hostess. I can imagine. Well, I'll try and take that as unoffensively as possible. Thanks very much.
There's probably many a job that I'd be shite at. Do you know what I mean? Most jobs that demand me to respect a lot of authority, I do bad at because. Or do you know what I can't do is that I can't do jobs that have arbitrary, nonsensical rules. Like if I get in a place and they're like, oh, you need to do this, this, and that, for reasons that don't make sense, I just can't do it. Like I can't do something because someone's like, oh, I've got authority and I'm telling you to do it, but it doesn't make sense. The logical part of my brain's just like, nah, doesn't make sense, not doing it. Nah, I'm good. Which is maybe it's a blessing and a curse because it means I can't stay with these jobs for long enough, but a blessing because it means I want to go and do my own thing and fucking be my own boss and make sense of things myself. But yeah, you are so stubborn. It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, I just like when things don't make sense to me. I can't get my head around it, and I can't pander to shit like that. And I hate serving people in that way. Like when I'm starting this business, say for example, in 6 months to a year's time, I have employees on. I want the culture to be very much one of mutual respect and one on meritocracy as well, where ideas are valued based on their inherent applicability and their success in a given situation. It's not, oh, I'm right, so believe me and do that. It's if I have a few employees, if they have better ideas than me, they have better ideas. That's what matters most, is that we have the best possible solutions for things, not just because I'm an authoritative figure. So that's the kind of culture that I'd like to create within a business. But anyways, back to you. I think that sounds nice. A third one, give us a third career. Third one would be like writing scripts for movies, like a screen, like because I done a class in screenplay, and it was actually so fun. It was so interesting, and yeah, I also really like movies and stuff like that. So I feel like whatever I would do, apart from the firewoman one, because that's just rogue, but I do love that, I would probably still end up in like a sort of creative industry. I feel like it's just where I'm drawn to. Not that I'm a very I can't draw or anything like that, but just I can't do maths either. So I feel like really the creative industry is just more my option. Because if you ask me to do any sort of maths or science, I'm fucked. Yeah, I think knowing you personally, I think creative is the best thing you're good at, and you do excel at it as well. Thank you. What do you think? So screenplays for like TV shows, movies, Broadway plays, like what would be your niche? Nah, not Broadway. I'm like not a theatre gal. Like there's so many theatre queers. I am not one of them. Absolutely fuck that. There's nothing worse than watching a movie and they just fucking break out into a song. Get fucked. Sorry, I just swore like 5 times, but it drives me nuts. We are in total agreement with that. There's nothing I hate more than a musical. Like actual in the bin. I'm done. No, it drives me nuts. Like especially when you're like a solid 15 minutes in before the first one comes and you think, oh, didn't know that was coming, and you just like, I've just invested 15 minutes in for fucking no reason. Been absolutely shafted by the music. Yeah, no, I'm totally agreeing with you there. So probably it would just be for
film or TV. Probably more. I feel like I'd maybe lean towards more TV because you can like obviously if you have like a film series, then of course you've got more time to develop like characters and stuff like that. But I feel like I could maybe enjoy a TV series like slightly more than a film, possibly. Just because of that level of like time that you sort of like invest into it. I feel like you get more like attached to it. But yes, maybe that. But yeah, that would be that's actually basically I'm having to decide what the hell I want to do when I leave uni. So that's basically the position that I'm in anyway right now. So it's been quite therapeutic talking about it.
I'm glad I could be a therapist for 55 minutes thus far.
Thank you. I know.
You said when you leave, or we spoke about this before, when you leave uni, you want to do a few months interrailing and then maybe in a year with a job to kind of figure things out. Why is it that you want to do that 2 months travelling? What is it that appeals to you most about it?
I've always wanted to travel. I think the world is such a big place. It like terrifies me the thought of only having seen like one tiny little part of it. I've always literally since I was young like liked the experience of traveling, even from the minute of like being at the airport. Like I just love it. I think it's so interesting. And then when I studied languages more, you obviously learn so much more about a culture, and I just think it's so interesting the way that people are like, we're all essentially the same, but we're so different just as a product of like where we lived. I just think that's fascinating. And even languages themselves, like they're just noises, but they make sense to people. I think that's like when I'm like high and I think about this, I'm like, oh my god, that's so fried. But yeah, I think it's so interesting. And then obviously I went to Bali with you, like Indonesia, and that was really fun. And I would love to do like sort of the whole backpacking like Southeast Asia thing as well. But I think basically I'm seeing interrailing as a chance to, I don't want to live in Scotland forever, like at all. But initially could see myself maybe moving somewhere that's more of like a similar lifestyle. So obviously just staying in Europe. So for me, interrailing Europe is like a possibility of seeing where I could see myself living. Obviously I'm not going to be there for long, so I think that's like, to some people that might sound like a ridiculous thing, but I don't know. I think when you're somewhere, you can sometimes just get a feel for it. Like when I was in Amsterdam, I literally felt like I was in like a second home. Like I was like, I've never felt so comfortable in a foreign country in my life. So yeah, that's kind of like my goal for interrailing, is to see maybe where I'd like to end up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good plan of doing it, is you go around, kind of get a taster for each city in each country, and then it's not out of the question for you to just go there and live as well. It's obviously much harder for us to do now, considering we're not in the European Union. Fucking stupid Brexit. Have you got your Irish citizenship?
My gran is obviously Irish, and my dad's in the middle of like applying for my passport. So
get it done. You want to be able to just like go and live in one of the countries, but yeah, I mean, it's not a bad plan that you go around, travel, visit, and then just decide, well, fuck it, I'm going to live here for a while. That's something that really has come to my attention in the past year, is that, and when I was 18, I always thought like, I need to get my head down and do something right now. And now at 23, I realise that we've actually got so much time ahead of us. If I want to spend a year living in Italy next year, and then spend maybe 7 months in South America learning Spanish, and the next year doing that, and you get to 27, you've lived in 5 different countries and you know a few languages and stuff, I think that's really valuable life experience to have. And there's really no particular rush to do a particular thing or be someone. We are quite lucky in that both of us come from privileged backgrounds, and we have strong support networks at home. So if we go to a different country, try something, it doesn't work, we can always come home and start again. And it's a really nice place of privilege to come from, and that you can go out and try these different things and live in different countries, and if all else fails, then you've got people that love you and care about you and support you. So yeah, it's just a really nice realisation to come to, that there's actually so many opportunities out there. And for you going into Interrail, and you could just decide, I'm in Italy now, like I'm going to fucking stay on the Amalfi Coast for the next 6 months and learn Italian and work in a cafe. You could do that. It's not out of the question.
Yeah, it's hard when you've got like a partner though, obviously, but I just actually say to like Tasha, I'm just gonna drag you out anywhere. Like she's like, as long as there's a Five Guys, I'll go, because that's where she works. But that is a thing. Like I think you do get so caught up in like the sort of complexities of like living abroad. Or I don't know about you, like when I'm like finishing uni this year, and it's freaking me out the fact that it actually is a possibility after talking about it for like, I don't know if you felt like that when you obviously moved to Australia, like you talk about it for a while. Like it freaks me out that I actually can just do that, like, and I think it's frightening that it's something you obviously see it as something so far-fetched when you're like first year uni or whatever. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna go and live in like, say, like Rotterdam, and then it's like when you're finishing uni, I'm like, fuck no, I actually could just apply for citizenship and move there. Like it's really not that hard.
It's so weird, mate, honestly, because you get here, and I remember I had a connecting flight in Brisbane, and cunts were kicking about with Aussie accents, and I was like, these are actual cartoon characters. Like, these people are not real. I've seen them on my TV, and there's no way these cunts exist. Like, it was so surreal to be here. And then I got here and I made friends with a bunch of people that were also travelling from Ireland and the UK and different countries and stuff. And you realise pretty quickly that anyone that's ever moved anywhere or done anything is just a person. Like, they're just a person that's decided to do it, and they get there, and it's way more simple than you think it would be. It's not this pure long drawn out process. You literally just pick up your shit, grab a visa, move to a different country if you've got the money behind you, of course. Even people come to Oz with no money, they just fucking grab a job 3 days into getting here and you're good to go. Like, it's wild how much less complex it is than it is in your head. And I think a lot of people don't travel for that reason, is that it seems really scary and far-fetched, and it's not until you actually do a bit of traveling yourself that you realise it's really not that hard. Like, things just, like, life seems to just figure itself out, and most people are way more competent than they think themselves to be.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to put it.
But we're on to an hour and 1 minute of our podcast, and I have some other things that I've got to get to this morning. So what we're going to do is we'll finish off the podcast as I've done with the other ones. And with the other ones, I've talked about character and self-development in different fashions for different people. So for Steeps, we talked about what characteristics he valued in other people and what he valued most about himself. And I'm trying to think of different ways to frame it. For you, I want to know one change that you've made in your life within the past year or two that you would say has made a positive impact on the way you conduct yourself or just on your happiness.
Okay. Is there another part to that, or just answer that bit now?
Just answer that bit now, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. I think we were talking about this a lot in Bali. I used to be so argumentative and not understand that people can have a conversation with two different opinions. I just presumed anyone that didn't agree with me was arguing with me. I think that was like a toxic trait as well. Like, that was made me difficult to like have a conversation with. For I think people probably felt as if they were like walking on eggshells around me, and I like don't like that, and I hate the thought of that now, like looking back. But yeah, it was definitely just like not me being aware of like that you can actually just communicate, and not everything has to be like raised voices and whatnot. And yeah, I used to get like an actual kick out of an argument, and now I just like can't be bothered. Like, I love like intellectual like debates, and like we'll have like differences of opinions and we'll talk about it and stuff like that. But like I'm at a point now where I can just be like, I feel like this conversation is like draining, or if I'm genuinely talking to someone and their opinion isn't going to change and my opinion isn't going to change, then I don't see the fun in continuing it, because it is essentially just a waste of breath and time for the both of us. But I think I definitely used to just, I don't know why, I just really liked arguing, and it was actually really draining. So I feel like that's something that I've like definitely changed in the way I like my tone and stuff like that has been something that I've like it's definitely not perfect. Like, I'm still, as you said, more than capable, like not taking shit, but I think I'm definitely more I don't like chase it at all. I don't know why. I honestly am not sure why I was like that, but yeah, I'm definitely not like that as much anymore, and try and be more aware. I think I used to kind of just see words as words, but they're actually, maybe it's from me writing more, but they're actually obviously really pretty powerful, and they can make people feel very not nice if you say them a certain way. I feel like I'm just more aware of that now, and like have a lot more value in the relationships that I have with people, and don't think it's worth ruining them for sake of a trivial argument or something like that. So yeah, that's definitely, sorry, I feel like I really went off on a tangent there, but yeah, that's definitely something that I've like worked on, and I'm happy that I have worked on it. I think it's definitely bettered me as a person.
Was there a light bulb moment that switched in your head that you were like, oh, this actually isn't having a profound positive effect on my life, this behaviour? Was there like a turning point, or was it more of a slow, gradual process?
I think it was like probably coming to uni and like meeting new people and realising that people do have loads of different opinions, and it was definitely me being aware, like coming to uni and realising that I was wrong in a lot of my opinions, that I was so hell bent on thinking that I was right, and if I had like stuck being so really narrow minded and not opened up to the thought of like, okay, Gemma, you actually can be wrong, babes, like you're really not that smart, I wouldn't have some of the opinions that I do have today, and I definitely wouldn't be probably like, yeah, like who I am today. So it wasn't like essentially like I was like sat in a classroom where I had an argument and this sort of happened, but it was definitely, I think, probably the jump from high school to uni and just being around different people and hearing so many different opinions and realising that like a lot of mine actually probably that I like established like weren't right, and realising that other people like spoke like a lot more like eloquently and learning. I don't know, but yeah, but I probably was just going to uni.
Okay, yeah, no, I found the same. I was never, I mean, I'm a pretty stubborn cunt as well. But I don't think I was ever maybe as entrenched in my views, but it definitely opened up my eyes coming to uni to a lot of different things in terms of social things and how society's structured, on how different people are, on people's views on like vegetarianism and veganism. Like we both grew up in quite an insular society, being from East Kilbride. It's quite a closed group of people, and thus the opinions are pretty closed as well. So for me, certainly come to uni opened my mind to a lot of things. Like before I'd be like, oh, I just got to eat meat and not think about anything else. And then one of my best friends turned out to be a vegetarian, as well as yourself. You also opened my mind to that, but like things like that, and then just like sexuality and how people conduct themselves and so on, so on, so on. Like uni's really, really good for that. Your exposure to people of different opinions. So I totally agree with you there. Leading back to what you were saying, what would a piece of advice that you would give to someone that was maybe like you were in the past? What would you say to them?
Oh, that's actually a really kind of like nice question. Definitely that the way you speak to people, and sort of the arguments that you get yourself in are actually just as draining on yourself as what they are on the other person. And when you constantly are arguing and in a state of sort of, I don't want to make it out as if I was like super, super angry. I was just like stubborn, and I was like quite, I maybe like did have like a bit of a worse temper, or do you know what, probably I did, but I think one of the things is you don't realise just how much when you're arguing and stuff that you like internalise that anger and stuff, and it really doesn't serve you. Like it's great to have a conversation and a vent and stuff like that, but if you can avoid arguments, you should where you can, because they are so draining. And like such, like I used to like argue people, and then I'd be such a cow, and then I'd cry because I'd just been such a cow, but then I'd also cry because like maybe they weren't that nice to me, and I was like, this actually serves no one. Like if we had just spoke like more calmly and stuff like that, and neither of us would feel like this. We're allowed to have like a difference of opinions, but how you carry out that conversation can like really obviously impact you. So yeah, you definitely like internalize things a lot more, and I was definitely probably like internalizing that like constant state of being like argumentative. I think it's really just a reflection on something I needed to work on as well. So yeah, I think my piece of advice would be, if you are very argumentative and stubborn person, is it's actually going to have just as much as a negative effect on yourself as it will on everyone around you.
Perfect. I think that's really good advice and quite an open insight into how that affects you personally. So I think that's probably the best way to finish the podcast. So
perfect.
Thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything you'd like to say to the 7 listeners before we finish?
No, just that it was really nice actually, because obviously I'm usually the one that's asking questions and interviewing, so it was nice to be on the other side of it and stuff like that. Thank you. Your questions were great.
Thank you very much. I tried my best.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.